What would you do if the president of your homeowners association kicked down your door, right in front of the state's attorney general? That's exactly what happened to Marcus Henley, a retired electrician who just wanted to enjoy his grandfather's peaceful lakeside cabin. What started as petty HOA harassment turned into the unraveling of a multi-million-dollar corruption scheme, and by the end, the so-called HOA queen was the one in handcuffs live on her own life. But before we get there, let me take you back 6 months earlier, when Marcus thought his biggest worry was fixing his old fishing dock. Marcus Henley was 52, finally retired after decades of hard work. His pride and joy was a small log cabin his grandfather had built on Clearwater Lake back in the 60s. It was rustic, quiet, and completely off-grid solar panels. Well water, the whole deal. Life was good. Until Delilah Cromwell showed up. Delilah wasn't just any neighbor. She was the brand new HOA president, driving a pearl-white Escalade with vanity plates that literally read Rule 1. She had one mission: transform the peaceful lakefront into her vision of a luxury resort-style community. Her first order of business, Marcus's property, at 7 in the morning. Marcus found her taping a bright citation notice to his screen door. Violation. Unsightly dock structure fine. $500. Compliance required within 72 hours. This was the same dock Marcus had rebuilt with his grandfather when he was 12. But to Delilah, it was an eyesore hurting property values. When Marcus tried to reason with her, she smirked and said, "Everyone on this lake answers to me. Sweetie, ask the Hendersons how well fighting me worked out for them." The Hendersons were his elderly neighbors, who had just sold their cabin suddenly after living there for 23 years. Something didn't feel right, but Marcus didn't know yet how deep the rabbit hole went. Soon, more citations piled up for his solar panels, his vegetable garden, even his hand-carved porch railing. Then came the legal letters, thousands in fines, and threats of liens on his property. It was clear, this wasn't just about HOA rules. Someone wanted his land. At first, Marcus thought this was just a case of a power-hungry neighbor. But then the situation escalated. 3 days after ignoring Delilah's bogus dock violation, Marcus received a certified letter from a high-end law firm demanding $3,000 in back fees. They claimed his dock was illegally intruding into community waters. Most people would panic, but Marcus remembered his grandfather's words: "When someone tries to take your land, always check the county records." So he did. Down in the dusty courthouse basement, Marcus pulled out the original 1963 deed. And what he found nearly made his blood boil. His grandfather's lot extended 50 feet into the lake. That dock wasn't illegal, it was sitting exactly where it belonged. Even more important, the HOA hadn't even existed until 35 years after his grandfather bought the land. Marcus thought he had one. But when he returned home, Delilah's Escalade was parked sideways across his driveway, blocking him in like a one-woman police barricade. And that was just the beginning. She launched the so-called Lakeside Beautification Committee, a group that pressured neighbors into complaining about Marcus's property or face fines themselves. Suddenly, friends who'd waved at him for years avoided eye contact. Some even apologized in private, admitting Delilah had threatened them too. Then came the vandalism. One night, Marcus's mailbox was spray-painted with the words "comply or leave." His security cameras caught Delilah's Escalade driving away at 2:30 a.m., but when he called the sheriff, guess who showed up? Deputy Chad Cromwell, Delilah's nephew. He shrugged and said, "Probably just kids." It became clear this was bigger than an HOA feud. Delilah had political connections, family and law enforcement, and leverage over half the community. And yet, Marcus still wasn't ready for what came next. She unleashed the county bureaucracy on him. Building inspectors, fire marshals, environmental officers, each one responding to complaints about his cabin. All of them left saying the same thing: everything was perfectly up to code. But on paper, it looked like Marcus's home was constantly under investigation. And then came her media blitz. Local news aired a story painting Marcus as a dangerous property owner, while Delilah posed on his dock pretending to be a concerned citizen. But here's the thing about lies. Eventually, they crack. Marcus's old union buddies and even a local judge started noticing the pattern. The Attorney General's office had already been investigating similar HOA harassment cases statewide, and with Marcus's documentation, they began to see the outlines of something much bigger: fraud, embezzlement, and organized corruption. That's when Marcus discovered the smoking gun buried in the HOA's own financial records. Over $280,000 in emergency assessments that were never used. Fake landscaping contracts funneled to relatives. Even insurance payouts for storm damage on days the weather was perfectly clear. It wasn't just harassment anymore. Delilah was running a criminal empire, using HOA power to force families to sell cheap while lining her own pockets. And Marcus Z was about to help take it all down. With proof of fraud in hand, Marcus turned his grandfather's cabin into a war room. He covered the walls with maps, timelines, and financial records. Every bogus citation, every false inspection, every vandalism report was documented. The Attorney General's office was already circling, and soon the FBI joined the case. They had seen this pattern before: HOA presidents, with political connections, harassing homeowners, driving down property values, and funneling money through shell companies. But they needed one thing: evidence of Delilah in the act. That's when Marcus's lawyer suggested the perfect setup: host the Attorney General herself at Marcus's cabin for an official meeting. If Delilah's pattern held, she wouldn't be able to resist interfering. So they wired the cabin with hidden cameras. Agents took positions around the property. Local media was tipped off, waiting for a breaking story. The trap was set. And like clockwork, Delilah walked right into it. The morning of the meeting, her pearl-white Escalade roared into Marcus's driveway. She wasn't alone. She had brought a full social media crew to livestream her heroic confrontation. The cameras caught it all. Delilah stormed across the porch in her designer heels, shouting about corruption and persecution. Then she kicked in Marcus's cabin door, live on camera. Inside, she found not just Marcus, but the state's Attorney General, sitting calmly in Pop's old recliner. The look on Delilah's face was priceless. "Mrs. Cromwell," the Attorney General said, holding up her badge, "you have just committed multiple felonies in my presence. And thanks to your live stream, the entire world just watched you do it." Moments later, FBI agents stepped inside and placed Delilah under arrest for fraud, extortion, harassment, and witness intimidation. The sound of the handcuffs clicking shut was like the final chapter of a long nightmare. Her livestream audience, thousands of people, watched in real time as their brave HOA president turned into a stumbling, handcuffed criminal. The aftermath: 3 months later, Delilah was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison, ordered to pay back over $300,000 in restitution, and banned for life from serving on any HOA board. Her husband, a state party treasurer who'd helped cover her schemes, was convicted of conspiracy and forced to resign in disgrace. The corrupt HOA was dissolved. In its place, the community created a volunteer association, Neighbors, helping neighbors. No power games, no bogus fees. Marcus didn't just win back his peace. His case sparked new state laws requiring HOAs to undergo financial audits and banning harassment-based property manipulation. His fight became the blueprint for homeowners across the country facing similar abuse. And Marcus, he finally got his retirement back. His cabin is now a model for sustainable living. He started a scholarship in his grandfather's name, and every evening he sits on that same porch watching the sun set over the lake. He refused to surrender. Because sometimes, David really does beat Goliath.